Hi, it's Jill from Jilly Bean Studio. Welcome to the channel where I share junk journaling and art journaling, projects, and ideas. In today's video, this is a follow-up to the 3 styles of altered books that I enjoy for junk and art journaling. And in the last video, which I will link below, I had a lot of questions about the paper hinge process. So it was really fun hearing from you and your questions about the paper hinge process. So I'm going to go through today step by step, set up a new book, and share a little more from this one. If you have any more questions, please let me know in the comments. I really do appreciate that. And I would love to know your ideas about using altered books as well. So some of the supplies that I'm using are old mixed media pads. Sometimes they're watercolor papers or they're just labeled like a Canson mixed media. And I tend to stack them in that little box as extras. So these are really great to add to this kind of paper hinge journal. And another kind of paper that I like to use is Bristol paper. This kind of paper is so fun to draw on, and I find in general it will take watercolor as well. So these are old discarded children's books. You can find them at library sales, maybe thrift stores, and someone may find a rare book, but in most cases these books are going to be paper pulp. So unless it says first edition and you need to Google it, I think 99% of these we're as journalers going to give these books a second life, and they're going to end up just being recycled or something. So don't feel bad about your book. Check it out. Make sure it's not a rare book, but I think that in itself would probably be very rare actually. So anyways, that's the kind of book that I like, a children's picture book. I tend to go for the folk tales and the fairy tales or something with a nature theme. And the one I'm going to show you in a few minutes from start to finish in terms of the setup of the paper hinge, it's more of a nature theme. I find this really a relaxing process, and these are books that I go back to again and again. I think my altered books in general are ones that I do over time. The ones I shared in the last video, I had one from 2022, and I think I went back to that journal over a couple years. This one I started with the 100-day project last year, so it's something that I think when you're in the mood for doodling, a little bit of watercolor, any sort of art that you enjoy. I like doing a lot of pen work in this and some fun art doodles. So definitely more to do and more to come in this one. And again, find a book that you like, that the theme inspires you. And I said it in the last video, but it has to feel good in your hands, something that the size is what you want to work in. This one is a nice square size. I'm checking it on the top that it is a sewn in, and it is. Usually the pages, the whole block of text will pull away. That is a great way to know if it's sewn in, as well as oftentimes you can see between the pages the actual thread. So just some things to check. I just prefer them. You can work in a glued book. I did also take a look at the copyright date, and this one is just another good old children's book that was hanging around and ready to be upcycled. I get very inspired by the illustrations. That's one of the main reasons that I choose to do an art journal in this style of book to begin with. So what I'm doing now is folding over pages in relation to a page that I think I might not want to rip out because I really do like the illustration. And so here's an example on the left. The astronaut there I think would be fun to keep in the book. So I'm going to fold down a page nearby to remind myself of that so I don't rip out the page. Yes, so the first round of it is just going through the book and seeing what really does inspire you and kind of saving those aside, and then deciding what it is that you want to tear out. So I'm figuring at this moment that these pages are gonna go, and I do them in sets of 2 so that I can sandwich the mixed media paper or whatever paper I'm using in between. And sometimes I stagger them like this. I probably will add 4 to 6 pages into a picture book like this. And that is the hinge right there. That is the place where you will put in an ample amount of glue, size up how you want your paper to extend on the page. Sometimes I stagger them and do them different sizes, not the full length of the book. You can figure out which way you want to orient it. I really like the ragged edges. And then sometimes I actually take the hinges themselves and decide I don't want to use them. And I might actually want to glue the hinge down to the previous page, like on the left-hand side. So sometimes I tear the pages out and I don't insert anything in. I simply take the hinge and glue it to the previous page to cut down on the amount of pages that are in the book. So I hope this process is making sense, and that, you know, as you see me go, I'm kind of just very intuitive. I like to make my decisions and be inspired by what I see on the page, take my time, and then I often will use all of those pages that I tear out to print on. They're so fun to just spray or paint over. You can even use them on your jelly plate. So you can totally repurpose those pages as well as put them in your junk journals. So nothing really goes to waste, right? If you're a junk journaler, you know you cannot resist the scraps. So this page, again, another mixed media page, it was, I like it a little bit less than the other paper that I did the watercolor wash on. I'm not sure which mixed media pad that came from. It's a little bit stiffer. So along the way, we find our favorites, but I'm not going to let it go to waste. I have a lot of scrap papers in that bin, and I really do try to use them up in art journals like this. Also, Fabri-Tac, which I'm showing you, is very helpful. If you prefer that, that gives you a nice secure hold of your papers between the hinges. So more playing. It's of course the rule that I know many people who sew have, right? You have to measure twice, cut once. So you do want to decide, take your time, what papers you want to keep in. And I love adding extra folded pockets and tuck spots. Again, the junk journaler mind is always racing as well, and I like having an interactive journal. So I'm going to glue that down to make a deep pocket. And then on this side, I'm going to glue it as well to make a little bit of a tuck spot, so that I can put in little art bits from either side. So another fun tip, if you like to add extra storage or extra ways to display your art in your art journal, add a pocket or a tuck spot, and it's another fun way to use the pages in this kind of journal. So I hope this process is helpful to you. It's really me in action, making the decisions on the spot, taking my time, doing different size hinges. And by the end of the video, which just is in a little bit, I will show you how I worked in it the next morning and give you just an idea of how the beginning setup came together. Really fun. I highly recommend this kind of art journal if you haven't tried it. So many ways to play in it. And for the last part of the video, I just want to also say that I will come up with the kitchen sink altered book flip through soon because a few of you asked for that as well. So I'll make sure I do a flip through so you can kind of see those pages if you're interested in an upcoming video. So this is the next morning where I made some decisions about tearing out a few more pages and then did a little hand lettering and did a quote on that page that we did together with the watercolor wash. So I thought I'd end the video by sharing that. You can see kind of the full setup from start to finish. I love this quote. I had to double check if the ink on that pen would run. I wasn't sure. It's totally fine. That's one of the Tombow brush pens. I think it's the Fudenosuke brush pen. And I couldn't remember if it would take water or not. So if I want to add more watercolor, it's totally good. Did a little brayering, just cleaning off the brayer. There's the pocket that we did together. Love that from both sides. I added this time a little bit of black cardstock as an additional page. And then this morning I put in a little bit of washi tape and decided to rip off that border from that mixed media paper that I put in yesterday. Again, I'm thinking of adding about 4 to 6 pages of the mixed media style paper in here. And then I really went to town with ripping. I wanted to stagger the pages on the left with the astronaut. I like the way they look staggered against one another. So I went ahead and did that. And then I finished up the page. I'm still debating, by the way, that hinge, if I want to just simply glue it down or add something. And this is the page we did the watercolor wash together, and I added that quote too. So this is all set up and ready to go for a new paper hinge journal, a fun nature theme art journal to use. So I hope sharing my process with you was helpful. I appreciate you being here, and there'll be more to come in both these journals as well as some of the other altered books. So again, appreciate you stopping by the channel and your comments, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.